Shell, a global oil and gas multinational who have profited from burning fossil fuels and have been responsible for damaging oil spills, with a plan to expand their fossil gas investments into 2030, partnering with British Cycling, an organization representing approximately 145,000 members, who put a premium on a zero-emission form of transport, is outwardly incongruous. For the full detail of the news, make sure you stick with me to the end of the video. Without any further delay, let's get into it. British Cycling's controversial deal with Shell. A reputation damaged in a financial black hole unfilled. October 10th started like any old Monday in the office at the National Cycling Centre in Manchester. Brian Facer, the CEO of British Cycling, was delivering one of his regular, pre-prepared updates. Facer habitually concludes them by asking, "Any questions? 3, 2, 1, okay, goodbye." But this time, the pause was especially brief after dropping his bombshell. Shell UK were to be official partners of the governing body. There had been prior discussions of a deal internally, but it was a surprise to the 100-plus staff on the call. A group of senior management at British Cycling had only been informed 3 days earlier. 4 hours later, British Cycling press release went out. The focus was on how Shell can support Great Britain's cyclists and paracyclists through sharing world-class innovation and expertise, accelerating British Cycling's path to net zero and helping more and wider groups of people to ride. A day of public shellacking for the governing body ensued. It was a Black Monday for British Cycling's social media team, dealing with over 2,800 quote tweets, the majority negative. A sample of the responses: baffled, ethically abominable, absurd, partnering a fossil fuel company in an accelerant your path to net zero. Is this satire? Several environmental organizations decreed it as greenwashing. A statement from Friends of the Earth stated that Shell is continuing to invest billions in oil and gas projects, while using cynical PR initiatives like this partnership to attempt to greenwash its harmful activities. This is the story of why a deal with Shell was inked to British Cycling, amid a gaping hole in the finances, low morale, and insider disillusion within the corridors of the sport's governing body. If we go back to 2016, the start of plates shifting that led to the seismic Shell news will be clearer. That was when Sky departed after an 8-year stint as principal partner at British Cycling, which saw success inside and outside the competitive arena. There were 12 cycling medals, 8 of them gold, at the London 2012 Olympics, 4 Tour de France titles, and an estimated 1.7 million people were inspired to take up cycling. Cycling was booming. Between the start and end of the Sky agreement, British Cycling membership skyrocketed from 30,000 to 125,000. All was not so rosy behind the scenes. The organization was subject to an independent review into the climate and culture of the world-class program, WCP at British Cycling, which detected numerous faults and flaws. It was deemed that the pursuit of medals and derived national lottery funding from UK sport meant addressing cultural and behavioral issues in the WCP was not prioritized. The investigation led to sweeping changes, which undoubtedly influenced approaches to partners. It was a low point. Julie Harrington came in as CEO in mid-2017 and was responsible for enacting a 39-point action plan stemming from the review. Several past and present British Cycling sources attest to an improvement in organizational culture, morale, and a consistency in her approach. During her tenure, the board was also revamped. At the end of 2016, HSBC was unveiled as a lead partner, bringing an estimated €4 million a year. Several British Cycling sources put it as highly as €8 million a year. That was a valuable coup, given an ongoing fundamental issue for British Cycling. They do not own their facilities or make a large profit from events. Of course, British Cycling are not the only ones making similar agreements like the Shell deal. Total Energies have sponsored a French pro team for the last 2 years, while Russian energy corporation Gazprom were involved in a squad for a decade. ExxonMobil recently extended their sponsorship with the Belgian national cycling teams to the end of 2024. Eagle-eyed viewers will have spotted their brand logo Esso over the right breast of Remco Evenepoel as he celebrated victory at the recent World Championships. For the wider public, while there was a vocal backlash on social media and environmental organizations, there's also a large, silent, unmoved majority out there too. Some will understand the hard-nosed pragmatism of the deal. Others may have no qualms about an association with Shell. It's the way of the world, they might suggest. It goes without saying that an injection of money was necessary, but it should also be noted that Shell are official partners, not lead or principal partners like HSBC or Sky were. The Shell announcement is a blow to a British cycling workforce suffering from low morale, as suggested by a corporate social responsibility survey in 2021, while numerous cutbacks and redundancies contributed to a significant churn rate of personnel. A former British cycling employee said that the number of staff leaving each year, as a percentage of the organization's workforce, workforce was huge, and they were constantly having to fill new roles. British cycling has been the center of several PR controversies in 2022, and that may have been affected by such change too. The organization backtracked on its original trans policy in April and also did a U-turn on messaging, which initially advised members to not cycle on the day of the Queen's funeral last month. That kind of mistake happened not long after a huge restructure took place in the marketing and communications team, and a significant number of people left. At least on the competitive side, the Great Britain cycling team have no problem in that department. They won 10 medals, including 3 golds at the recent Elite Track World Championships, with more paracycling silverware rolling in over the past week. But all that glitters is not gold. It's not just about medals, but members, morals, and cycling as an activity. A petition at Advertising urging the governing body to rethink the arrangements has over 1,500 signatures, including numerous British cycling members, coaches, mountain bike leaders, commissaires, and volunteers, the figures upon whom they rely to make cyclosport as healthy as it can be. Next up, let's look into Jonas Vingegaard's claim that though defending the Tour de France is hard, he is up for the challenge. 3 months after being crowned as the winner of the 2022 Tour de France, Jonas Vingegaard is gradually starting to enjoy it all. The intensity of his duel with Tadej Pogačar and all the stress of cycling's biggest race are transforming into a sense of quiet happiness and pride. Vingegaard has opted to avoid the spotlight of Thursday's presentation of the 2023 Tour de France in Paris, but if he watches the presentation while enjoying the final days of his holidays, he can rightly savor the highlights video of his 2022 Tour victory. Winning the 2022 Tour was life-changing for the softly spoken Jumbo-Visma driver. With a sudden wave of fame and public attention sweeping into his life, the 25-year-old started the Tour on home roads as a contender, but then lived in a protective bubble as he raced the best 3 weeks of his life and fought to win the yellow jersey. When he emerged from the other end, he was a national hero in Denmark. Nothing would ever be the same, and he needed several weeks away from racing and the spotlight to take it all in and recover from the fatigue of the Tour. During and after the Tour, Vingegaard was often asked how he managed his emotions due to concerns about how he handled expectancy and pressure. He always played down any major problems, but his partner Trine Hansen, his mother Karina, and former coaches revealed to L'Equipe how he had suffered with anxiety before major races ever since he was a talented teenager, and how it had often wrecked his chances of success. Sessions with a mental coach helped overcome some of his worst fears and bouts of vomiting in his early years at Jumbo-Visma, while Hansen, who is 11 years his elder and an expert in marketing, taught him how to better manage his emotions by listening to his favorite songs or talking with teammates or team staff about something other than cycling. Vingegaard suddenly became the best bike rider Denmark has ever seen, and one of its greatest athletes. Yet, instead of cashing in at the post-tour criteriums, spending hours on national television, or even riding the Tour of Denmark as a celebration, Vingegaard preferred to return home to Glyngøre and the quiet of isolated central Jutland, enjoying some privacy as he celebrated his Tour win with family and friends. Also, Vingegaard seemed to enjoy the process of preparing for the Tour de France more than the attention, fame, and expectation of the 3 weeks in July. Some have predicted that he could be a one-time Tour winner, with a life goal ticked off and a preference to avoid the pressures of targeting the Tour de France year after year. Yet his love for the process seems to motivate him. It helped him return to form for the end of the season, and will surely get him back out on the bike during the winter. That concludes today's video. If you found the video helpful, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. See you next time!